Today's video, D Chef Holmes is going into the technical side of things. Going to teach a little meat cutting, and I'm going to show you something that makes a big difference. And people don't believe this, but the cut of meat has a lot to do with the flavor of the meat. This is a roast, regular size, average roast. It's a bigger piece of meat for than a steak kind of thing. And the thing about it is, when I was like 16, I worked in the grocery store back in Wallace, North Carolina, Wilson. And my job was to clean the meat room. So I would go in that evening after the meat cutters, the butchers was finished up, and I would spray down everything, wash everything. That was my job. But the guys like me. They took me in under their wing and showed me all the secrets of cutting meat the proper way, because that has a lot to do with everything. Like I said, I was 16 and I learned a lot, and I've always used it. And you can get a lot of flavor out of the same piece of meat that you may hate if someone else cooks it. Brisket is number one. If you don't know what to do for brisket, even if you cook it and it's excellent, it can be the worst piece of thing you've ever had, because it is so tough, and it's going to be nasty and stringy, even if it's got a good flavor. I just cut this piece off, but I'm going to show you a perfect example of what I'm talking about. I separate it like with all the fat. I don't even really use a knife. I just like stick my finger in there. See how it's not really, see how I just pull that loose? It's not really joined right there. You can stick your finger right in there and separate that. See how this, look at there. Oops, a bullet spinning on me. But see how that fat and that meat is not one, and you can just separate it. So that's what I do. I just separate it. Look, you can see all the way through there from the bottom side. See what I'm saying? I pull it apart like that. You don't even have to waste your time cutting that fat. You don't have to do nothing with that. And I'm going to show you, like, this is a piece that I just cut off. Each muscle on each piece of meat, I'm going to be in pretty close so you can see what I'm doing. Each muscle on each piece of meat has its own grain running different ways. This was in here like this, where it came off. And as you can see, when you look at this piece of meat, you don't see any grain, because it's running up and down. So I wouldn't cut this meat. I would not cut it that way, because you're cutting with the grain. So it's going to be tough, even though this is not a thick, big piece of meat this way. So I would flip this meat. Okay, look at it this way. Now you see a little bit of grain. You see the grain is running at an angle like that. Now we turn it this way. Now you can really see the grain. See it easier right here? The grain is running like this way. So I wouldn't cut it this way like this right here. I would cut it this way at the angle like that. So that I'm cutting perfectly opposite and across the grain. It's easier to see it right here. See how that grain is running at that angle like this right here? And yep, it's easy to see. I'll cut the little piece of fat off, but it's easier to see. So you want to turn it until you find which way the grain is running, and you want to cut exactly across it. Like I said, I wouldn't even cut it this way like that, even though you're cutting across the grain. It's not straight across the grain, so it still will be kind of grainy. The grain is running like this, so I would cut it like this. And the same thing with this here. It's easy on this piece here to see which direction the grain is running. It's running like this here. It's running across, like this. So on this piece, when I separate it, I'm going to cut it like here, 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 like that. And you would never believe the difference that it makes in how much tender your meat is. I'm getting ready to cut these pieces, like I said. This right here, my first cut would be like this. And then you want to have nice size cubes, but not big hunks. I'll show you. Let me cut a couple pieces. I'm going to show you on this one piece. Okay, you see, like I said, the grain is running at that angle like this, okay? So I cut, like I said, I want to go 100% cross grain. And look at this here now. If I would have cut that meat this way, it would have been tough and stringy. See how the grain is running? See that right there? Now look. That's going to be a lot more tender, flavorful. And each piece would be like that. Because it's cut across the grain. You will not believe the difference it makes. See how short that grain is now? And now it looks, look at there. That even looks tender, even though it's not cooked. And it's a night and day difference. I'm gonna cut a couple of other pieces. I'm gonna cut one wrong just so you can see what I'm saying about cutting with the grain. I'll probably do it on this big piece. And once again, I'm gonna show you this as I'm separating this. Like I said, you don't have to do any cutting. Wherever that fat's at, you can just stick your finger in there and it'll separate. Because that fat is not, see what I'm saying? Look. Just pull that right apart. When I clean deer, I have a deer, I don't cut anything. I just stick my fingers in there and separate the entire hams. Each muscle is its own muscle. See what I'm saying? Look at that. And this is not deer, this is beef, but I'm just saying the same thing. Each muscle on the hams and everything. Look here. It just pulls right apart. And I'm not putting muscle, I'm not cutting or tearing muscle. Trying hard to do it with one hand, but as you can see, each piece is its own piece of meat. It's its own muscle. And so let me go ahead on, like I said, and finish separating this stuff. I don't know what size this roast was, but this is to give you an idea of how much money you lose when you buy a roast. Look at this is the lean meat, and look at how much fat it is. It's more fat than it is lean. Got a whole full plate of it. And so that's pretty much what you're buying. So what I'll do with that, I'll save it. So when I do make sausage and stuff, I'll grind that up and put it in there. Because that way when you fry it, all the fat melts away and becomes grease when you fry it as in sausage. But as a roast, some of it melts down, but most of it stays on there. And I see people eating all that junk. And that ain't no good for you at all. You talking about, look how, especially the thick, hard fat, like that's like a piece of soap. None of that's any good for you, but at least when you make a sausage and you fry it, at least a lot of it shrivels up and goes away. That's why like you start off with like a big hamburger patty, like a Big Mac, the whole patty when you first start frying it. And then it shrivels down to like just a pickle at the end because it had a lot of fat in it. And the fat shriveled off as you was frying it. But I'm going to show you, give you a perfect example. I'm trying to set my phone up so you could get a good look on this here. On like what you do on smaller pieces. See on this piece here, how the grain is running like this way here. So same thing, like I said, I'll cut like right here. Oh man, it's kind of hard to do this with one hand. I'll just cut it and stick it together so I can show you. Okay, the grain on this piece was running at the angle like this. So I cut it that way. Like I said, cutting those grains and it makes it a whole lot more tender. Like I said, that way, it's cut across the grain. This piece here, the greens was running that way. You know, we're running like this. So since it's a shorter piece of meat, to just shorten it up and still make a solid piece of meat, I cut it that way. I did kind of like corner cross cut that, but it's still cut and it'll be okay. This piece here was a short piece of meat and the green was running this way. So I left it whole and I cut it in half this way because it'll end up being fine like that. Because like I said, it's cut across the grain. It'll just be a nice, come on, focus. It'll be a nice tender piece, kind of lengthy. And then this here I use as a perfect example to show you. This is, look at the grain, look at the grain. Now look at this here, and to pretend this is a brisket. This is the last thing that you want, is somebody slicing the brisket, look, with the grain. Now just imagine, look at that. Just imagine trying to eat that. See how that is? And when it would cook, it would toughen up. And if it, once it gets tender, when you cook it a long time, then it would get to the point of where it would be like stringy, like eating grass or something. You do not want that. And so that's why you do not cut with the green. It makes it long and stringy. But to solve this problem, it's no big deal. I cut these pieces and I left them thick because I knew I was going to cut them in half. Cut them across the green. So now I lay them down. Now each and every one of these will be perfect because see, I cut them with the green just to show you. But now as you can see, they're cut across the greens. Just look at the difference of the texture of the meat once you cut across that grain. Look at that. It's nothing. I'm trying to get it where you can actually see it good. Like, look at that. Look at that. That's a perfect picture. When you're eating that, it's so nice and tender. So nice and tender. Instead of stringy and something you don't even want to eat. And now you can cook it any way you want to. This same roast will be so good because of the cut. You can flavor it, season it, do whatever you want to. But what I'm doing is some Cuban stuff today again. So I'm going to throw it in the pressure cooker. And no matter what type of meat it is, that really makes it tender. But don't get it wrong now. Don't get it twisted. Don't think that it's only tender because it's in the meat cooker. That's the same thing I did with bear. People say they never had none, want to try it, and they could not believe how tender it is. You could take this right now. I would bread it, season it, fry it, and like brown it just a little bit on each side, and then I would cut it down and simmer it on the top of the stove for maybe like 15-20 minutes with some gravy, and man, it'd be so tender you could probably take your finger and just cut it just like this here. And it's a difference between being nasty and mushy, where it's overcooked and mushy. I'm talking about nice, tight, solid, good meat, but tender as it can be. Not that old nasty, mushy stuff like mushy beef liver. Not nothing like that at all. But nice, juicy, and tender. Real tender. Okay, everybody, on to the Cuban. Here's my beef. I got my cast iron pan, good and hot. And I got my beef. Ooh, a little bit too hot, I wasn't that hot. I salted it and I vacuum sealed it. So now I get ready to put it in here. And I always brown my meat on every side, completely round. And that makes it tender because it seals all the juices on the inside. So let me cut my pack open and throw it in there. Okay, you see how I got it in? A couple pieces already brown on that bottom side. There. But I put a good little browning on it. Turn my heat up on like pretty good. Couple notches above medium high. So look ahead and put a good browning on it. And I'm chopping up an onion. That goes in next. Things went to moving a little fast, but I got my meat brown on every side, got it out. Now I got an onion diced up and threw in here. And I got a little bit of wine to get all that flavor off the bottom where the meat was sticking, not burning, but you want to brown it, so you want to get that stuff loose. Then I got about a tablespoon of minced garlic. I didn't use fresh because I didn't feel like messing with the day. Things got kind of fast. And I got a little cilantro thrown in, which you don't really have to do that on this recipe. Then I got some basil. I'm sorry, not basil. Some cumin, garlic powder, onion powder, black pepper, salt, and a couple other herbs. I can't figure the name out right now, but I can list them. Got a can of tomato sauce. Got a garden full of these too, but I'm gonna use them because I got them. Got a can of diced onions. And when you throw your garlic in, throw that in here after you soften your onions up. And maybe just give it a minute because you don't want to scorch garlic taste. So I'm gonna throw in my seasonings, mix them in. Okay, I got all the spices, the diced tomatoes and the everything, every season, everything is all mixed in here now. So now I'm getting ready to dump the meat. We'll dump it in the Instapot. And remember, that little bit of meat right there is the only meat that was actually good off of the whole roast. So that just goes to show you how much fat people eating roast. And now I'm getting ready to pour all the sauce in there and turn on the Instapot pressure cooker. I'm going to do it for 20 minutes and then let it stand on the little 15-minute non-pressure thing after that. So we got to go to the store anyway. So when we come back, everything will be good and ready to go. Now I got everything in the Instapot and it smells so good. Man, it's good. It smells so good. Can't wait. Just said get ready to do it. 20-minute pressure cook and then a 15-minute once to release and let it sit in there while we run to the store. Come back, it'll be perfect. Gonna throw some rice in the rice cooker, that'll also be ready. So that's the good thing about something like this. It doesn't really take a lot of time with you staying here standing with it, but it's very, very good when you get it at the end. Just got back from the store. Everything is ready. Got my rice all restaurant looking style. And look at there. Look at there, look at there. Trace outside running her mouth with the neighbor. I get ready to get me a sample. Just a little bit. It is so good when I do this. I didn't think I would like it. Something that was tomato based with beef. But man, was I surprised when I tried it. Get out of the light. Look at there. Look at there. Get me a sample. And this concludes this week's trip to Canada. I don't think say Canada. Think about my buddies to Cuba. I forgot the name of it. I forgot how to say it. But it is so good. And I'm going to show you something. Remember that roast. Look. Look how it just comes apart. Look, matter of fact, I'm just pushed down. Look at that. It is so tender. And like I said, the thing about it, when you do your proper cuts, you can tell that's not mushy tender. That's tender. The good tender. Look at it. Come on, focus. And some of this rice with that. It is so good. Talk to y'all later. This was just a one dish, quick throw together meal. It's a lot of other stuff I could have put in it, a lot of other stuff I could have got to go with it, but it's late when I got home, so I just did this plain and simple, and it's fine. And this is just to see every day we eat good, like at a better than restaurants, and anybody can do it. All you got to do is try it. I try to make these videos plain and simple. I don't break them all the way down, but you can pretty much get the hint, and you'd be surprised to know if you just try it, how good some of the stuff is that you can cook yourself and at home, and a lot cheaper than going to the restaurant getting it. So like I said, I don't know what I'm gonna have yet tomorrow, but it'll be good. It'll be something different. Never gets old in the D Chef Homes camp.